What's up, folks? Welcome back to another edition of SHU Outdoors. I want to clear the record up on a few things, so there'll never be any misunderstandings of who I am and what I'm about. When I was in prison, I always rolled with a white race, good, bad, or ugly. Not because I'm some super huge racist. I don't hate anyone or dislike anyone just because of the color of their skin. Prison is prison, and it is what it is, and you will have to go along with the program to a degree in order to make it and survive. So if I'm in hell, I want to make the best out of the bad situation that I found myself in. If the life gives you lemons, you figure out a way to make lemonade. So I'm a white man. I'm proud to be a white man, as everyone else should be proud of their race and do everything they can possibly do to protect it, preserve it, and uplift it. With that said, I got no problem calling a white guy out if he's a meatball. I'm not willing to be in a prison and allow the behavior of one white meatball to endanger the health, safety, and well-being of every other person in that housing unit or in that jail as a whole. If necessary, that white man's got to go because everything he's doing is leading to chaos, trouble, and strife for the other white men in the facility. Sometimes you can talk to someone and it will help correct their behavior. If talking is not effective, then what we have to do is remove that white man for the health, safety, welfare, well-being of all the other white men in the facility. This is the way it's did in prison. I didn't say I was a fan of the system or I'm a cheerleader for it, but that's the way it is. And when I was doing all my time, and especially the 10 years in the feds, I was on stone cold white time. And I got no problem going up against another race if it becomes necessary. A lot of times, problems are created because certain individuals of any given racial dynamic are doing inappropriate things, and one thing leads to another, and it explodes. So the whole course of this is part 2 of another white Aryan being stabbed to death. The reason why I'm doing this video and part 1 was to show what not to do if you find yourself in a maximum security federal penitentiary. How to actually make it out alive without a stab wound in you, like me. It wasn't because I didn't have enemies that wanted to hurt me. I never gave them the opportunity. Okay, because I'm a strategic thinker. I did another video on the 5 books that any prisoner should have and study, and I could have recommended hundreds, but I narrowed it down to 5. I'm a big proponent of knowledge. The more you know, the more tools you have in your toolbox, and the better equipped you are at addressing problems, fixing problems, and figuring out a way to move forward. As being a white guy, all of us can move forward in a better, smoother position. And that's always been my goal. You know, how can we move forward in this horrible prison setting as smoothly as possible? Sometimes violence occurs, and there's no way around it. But if we can avoid it, let's avoid it so we can keep eating, making money, and doing the things we like to do. That's a no-brainer to me. And maybe that's my East Coast mentality coming into play, but this kind of is what it is, and that's the way I see it. Another thing, if you're a YouTube creator, you know that you can promote your videos in certain markets. And I gave some thought to that, and ultimately I decided against it. I want this show to be organic. I want everyone that watches my content to be a fan of the show. in the truthness and the realness that I bring to the YouTube forum. I never, ever intentionally make a misstatement. I will never tell a lie. Everything I say is the truth, is the best that I can decipher it and present it to my audience. So even if it takes me 2 or 3 years to become monetized, so be it. There's hundreds of millions of people in the world. There's hundreds of million people that speak English. And there's tens of thousands of people that will subscribe to this show and will help prop this show up and facilitate it being successful. Rome, the Great Wall of China wasn't built overnight. It's built one brick at a time, one step at a time. And that's what this show is going to be about. It's going to be real and authentic. And I have no problem if you want to hit me up in the comments and suggest that I do a show or whatever, please do it. And I'm all for it. And I will definitely take it under consideration. But the show is going to be organic. And that's one of the biggest things to me. Organic, honest, truthful, and my point of view, the way I see things as a whole, and that's just the way I see it. So this right here is part 2, dealing with United States Penitentiary, Victorville, and how another white man was stabbed to death. Keep it real. Let's call it what it is. And it happened because of his foolish behavior. And I'm going to get into the rest of that in this video. And if I drop a name, it's because I want the viewing audience to know that I was actually in these jails and I was around these men. And I was there and I did do that. And I survived without one stab wound on me. So if you ever find yourself in a position like that in a horrible maximum security federal penitentiary, if you emulate some of my behavior, some of the knowledge I'm passing on to you, you may find yourself coming out without a stab wound on you too. Or you can go the other route like this guy went and not make it out. The choice is yours, and ultimately, you're the captain of your own ship. But that's what it is. But before we get into part 2, let's hit the theme song and let's get this thing up and like. Yeah.
Dropped out, mostly guilty. Seriousness has got possibly. Light up, shining down on me. Feel so alive, it's just you and me.
Thing about a USP, oftentimes there's 6 units on one side of the jail. They're all built on the same model. 1 or 2 of them are double stacks, and they don't have but one side. So you'll have 12 units on one. I think USP Pollock has got like double stack like that, and maybe 1 or 2 more. But most of them are built along the same exact model. Slight differences in where the Native American sweat lodge would be, or where the Odinist fire pit would be. But most of them are built along the same exact model. And I would imagine that they had morning rec or they had afternoon rec. And at nighttime, they come out of their cell like everybody else, but they don't have yard. You know what I mean? So the way it usually work is, let's say blue side, red side. And they'll have like F1, A1, and it'll be all blue on one side, and on the other side of the jail, it'll be all red, something like that. And blue side will have rec in the morning time. Red side will have rec in the afternoon time on the yard. And then blue side will get night rec. Now, in the feds, they have what they call a winter schedule. So in the wintertime, when the sun starts going down earlier, there is no yard when the sun goes down. Yard's over. In the summertime, the yard will be out until 8:30, 9 o'clock, whenever the sun goes down. But once that sun goes down in the wintertime at 4:30, there is no more yard at night. The feds don't play that. They want to be able to see you on the yard so they can get a clear shot at you. So United States Penitentiary It's just like a level 4 yard in California, but there is some notable differences. They let everybody, unless the jail's on lockdown, everybody's out of their cell all day long. There's this big-ass day room. The only time you're in your cell is at nighttime or at 4 o'clock count. And on the weekends, they have like a 9:30 to 11 o'clock count. So it's a little bit different on the weekends. But other than that, everybody's out of their cell in the day room. So it's constant chaos, confusion, mayhem. Even if nothing violent happens as a result of it, there's always some kind of like politicking and debating that goes on. Another important factor, they only have a gun tire on the yard. So usually if they want to get you, they're going to get you in a cell block because they got to go and get anything they want and bring it to the cell block. Now, the officers have mace, but that's kind of about it, because the last thing you want is COs walking around with billy clubs and stuff like that in the feds. That would quickly be taken from them and they would be beat to death. Okay, it's nothing like a state joint. You got hardcore gangbangers there who don't care about catching another 20 years or another life sentence. They're going to put that work in if it needs to be put in, and it doesn't matter who that work needs to be put on, staff or other prisoners. It's a completely different level of professional criminals, for lack of a better word, and a lot of these guys, some are got 5 or 10 years, but a lot of these guys have 2 or 3 life sentences anyway. They don't care about whatever. It's just, it is what it is. This is their home, so they want their names to ring bells, and they don't care who they end up punishing if you violate, and that's what you got coming. Let's get back into it.
He went to Scapazzi's cell, 204, told Scapazzi that he had offended Yogi, and asked for an apology. Scapazzi continued to brush aside what had happened and said something along the lines of, "We can meet up in the TV room if he wants." A clear challenge for a fight. Another white inmate tried to step in and tell Salazar that Scapazzi was just joking. "It's all good," Salazar reassured them. As the next few minutes would demonstrate, that wasn't.
It wasn't no good, all right? This dude had probably been a disrespectful guy in a subliminal way for since he had been in the jail. And he thought his size and the fact that he had a few more white dudes around who were, talking a good one, but obviously, as this unfolds, was not up for the fight. Dude, the Sereno didn't come to get an apology from someone else. He came to get an apology from this bozo who not only put himself at risk, but as you'll see as this plays out, put every other white prisoner in that cell block at high risk. Because if something like this goes down, let's say I'm just a white guy. I don't even like this dude who's drunk and being loud. But if the Serenos or the blacks attack him, I am obligated to come to his rescue to the best of my ability. And if I don't, then I'm in the hat with every other white guy, not only in that jail, but every other jail I go to, because word's going to follow. So what the other white dude should have did, as soon as he started acting like that, send 2 guys at him and beat the hell out of him and get him out of the block. Send him to the hole. He's got to go. Because what he did is not just about him. It's going to affect every other white guy in that block and potentially every other white guy in the whole jail. Let's go ahead and get back into it. And like I said, a lot of these documentary filmmakers, they do an excellent job of getting footage off the internet and accessing prison records and kind of telling the story from the point of view of a broadcaster and the way the prison writes it up, but they don't know the nuances. Now I was there, and I can see exactly what happened. Let's go ahead and get back into it.
Exactly true. After the conversation at cell 204 with Salazar, Yogi and a group of others met at the stairs between the lower and upper tiers at Area 4. They included Oscar Lonely Rodriguez, Alejandro Slow Mujica, Danny Monster Martinez, and Walter Littleman Meneses. All of the men were associated with various Los Angeles area cliques of the Serrano gang. The plan was for Lonely, Yogi, and Slow to go inside cell 204 while Monster and Little Man stayed outside and kept watch. As the group was talking, Ulch departed cell 204 to go take a shower, but Scapazzi was not left alone. Two other inmates, Ryan Davis and Wayne Graham, remained in 204 with him. Davis would later testify as a prosecution witness that when the three Serranos entered the cell, their eyes were hard, their teeth were locked, and their jaws were clenched. What the
Yeah, because they didn't come in there to talk it out. They're past that. They come in there to air them fools out. All right? It goes to show you a little thing in a maximum security federal penitentiary could very easily lead to death, destruction, and a lot of people getting hurt. This is an important side note I just want to put in this video. When you get to this level of incarceration, it's nothing like a lot of these documentaries you see out of Alabama and Georgia, where you got these little hip hoppers doing, raps with their knives and how tough they are and stuff. The Serranos don't roll like that, and a lot of the white prisoners don't roll like that neither. It's a bozo-ass thing to do. I found the Serranos to be gentlemen, and I'm not saying every one of them is a phenomenally great guy. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But because of their structure and the way their organization runs, I found them to be straight up dudes. I've dealt with a lot of them in prison. And I've dealt with a lot of heavy hitter white dudes too. But they didn't come in there to talk. They came in there to end that fool. All right? Now let's get back into it.
Buck's up now, Dave, Yogi allegedly asked. Then they began to attack, swinging knives at Scapazzi and Graham, both of whom were struck multiple times as they tried to defend themselves. The fight soon spilled out into the range of the upper tier, and that's when Monster and Little Man joined in, punching and kicking both Graham and Scapazzi. The commotion was loud enough for Ulch to catch wind that something was up, and he hurried back to join in the fracas, just in time for the attackers to turn their knives on him. Meanwhile, another Serrano, Victor Mono Rocha, saw what was going on and he too rushed over to help, covering 140 feet in just 3 seconds to join the fight. He grabbed Scapazzi by the ankles from behind and flipped him face forward into the concrete floor. Then he and Monster tried to throw the 300-pound Scapazzi over the railing. In the end, Graham, Scapazzi, and Ulch had all been stabbed. Scapazzi and Ulch required hospitalization. Doctors later determined that Scapazzi had been stabbed in the lung and the liver, causing internal bleeding. Though he was completely alert and appeared to be recovering after the attack, Scapazzi took a turn for the worse 4 days later and was declared brain dead. He died on April 16th.
Yeah, because you got to understand something. The prison doesn't give a damn about you, and they don't care about any embarrassment either. Who can do anything to the Federal Bureau of Prisons? Who can investigate them? Nobody. Okay, they got a couple of little quasi organizations that can come in and do an investigation, but it means absolutely nothing. They don't care about investigation. You get stabbed up, either you make it or you don't. They're going to give you subpar medical care. Depends. Sometimes you'll get a good nurse that actually cares, and sometimes you might get a nurse that's more correctional, more prison guard than nurse, and you'll perish because they don't really care if you live or die. Okay, this is the last stop for the worst bunch. You think you're tough? You think you're a hardcore gangbanger? Okay, with your little knife dance in these little weirdo-ass southern prisons down in Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia. I'm doing a little knife dance. That makes me a hardcore criminal, a hardcore gangster. The fact that I even know you got a knife means that you're going to be the first target that I zero in on, all right? You're a bozo, okay? When you get around real gangsters, they're not going to do a bunch of talking, a bunch of rap videos, doing their little knives, how tough they are, banging on sales and stuff. There's no need for that. I already know what I want to do to you. And what I'm going to do is let you sleep on me until I go and get my knife, come back, catch you watching TVs after you did your little rap dance with your two knives, telling everybody how tough you are on a TikTok video from prison. And I'm going to run up on you and give your ass to business. And that's exactly what happened here. The staff didn't care about him. They didn't care if he lived or died. Yeah, they went through the motion. They took him down to medical, patched him up, sent him to the outside hospital because it's obvious you have internal knife wounds. They don't have the facilities to facilitate that at the prison infirmary. Yeah, they could give you like life-saving treatment if they feel like it, till an ambulance gets there and takes you to the hospital, or I've seen them airlift people out because a lot of these Victorville is USP Victorville is about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours from downtown Los Angeles, and it's right there in USP Victorville. It's a town called Victorville. All right there on the outskirts of it. It's like a desert in climate with like what they call it, high desert. It's like high desert, but like with rolling like mountains type of thing. Actually, a very pretty place until you get into United States Penitentiary, Victorville, and even that's well manicured. There's tents on New York, like sun tents, because it's like in the high desert. Shit gets like 110 degrees, no humidity. You got to go out every time you go to the yard. You got to have a bottle of water and a thing of chapstick so your lips don't parch. And I really was there. Okay, I did about 2 years there, and this isn't like some like hypothetical. Now I usually don't drop names in these videos, but just so everyone knows I'm not making up a story, I was there when Bobby was there, okay, a high-ranking member among the Serenos, and I don't need to say no more about that. I was there when Sam and Huff, two AB members, tried to remove another AB member's head, Snow's head. Yeah, I was there, okay. I was there with Mike Woods. I was there with Big Richie and Little Richie from the NLR. Okay, I was there with Jake Lasky, a big skinhead. Another interesting point, when it comes to the white dudes, there are many more white dudes from Oregon and the Washington State than there was from California. For whatever reason, while I was there, they were a much bigger car than the California car, but it was still a brand yard. Even though after that incident occurred, I went to wreck with Huff. Okay, I went to wreck with him many times. He had a celly because he didn't just unalive Snow just for the fun of unaliving. A hit came down, I'm imagining, otherwise it would have never happened. And him and another prospect, Sam, that was prospecting for the brand. I would never say his last name, but I'm saying this to drive home the point that I was actually there. This isn't some like theoretical nonsense that I'm trying to bite this guy's footage and add something to it. Now, I was there. I seen the shit up close and personal, and I know exactly how the system works. And he sealed his fate when he got drunk, couldn't handle his liquor, started loud talking in a disrespectful way, and at this point, the Serenos had done made their mind up. We're going to hit this fool because these other white lames, and I'm white, I don't take no great pleasure in saying that, but these other white dudes, they didn't have the right type of white dudes in that block, because if they'd had the right type of white dudes, he would have sent two other white dudes or went up there himself with one other person and beat the hell out of this dude. He's already drunk, okay? Maybe not stab him up, but at least beat the hell out of him and get him out of this block, because his behavior is not only putting his life at risk, it's putting every other white man's life at risk in this facility and in this unit. Because one thing about the Serenos, you have to give the devil their due. They don't play around, man. Okay, if they get a direction from one of their leaders to go and hit somebody, that person is as good as hit, unless there's just no way whatsoever they can get to them. They'll hit the warden. They'll hit the director of the Bureau of Prisons if they get the order to do it. These dudes ain't nothing to play with at all. With that said, if you keep it real, you know how to conduct yourself like a man, you probably won't never have no problems with them. And another aspect of that, if you go back and look at a prior episode I did with the 5 banned books that prisons love to ban, those are good study books, because what happened was they didn't have proper white leadership in that housing block. Because if they would have, that incident would have never happened. And if it did happen, the whites would have took it upon themselves to get rid of this guy right now before all of us end up in a war. Not only just to get rid of him, the dude's 100% wrong. Okay, you should have not been allowed to drink. If we catch you drinking one more drink, we're going to beat the hell out of you. Okay, that's it. You're not drinking. I've seen that happen to many guys in prison. You can't handle your liquor. You're not allowed to drink. And if we find out you're drinking again, putting everybody at risk because you're a big mouth, we're going to jump on you and beat you to a fucking inch of your life. All right? Because your behavior is not only endangering you, your behavior is endangering every other white man in this housing unit, in this entire jail, and potentially, who knows, even worse. Because when these incidents happen, it doesn't always stay localized. Sometimes it spreads. All right? Now, a narrator or somebody who's doing a documentary wouldn't be able to give you this inside view. And I'm doing this because I really want to, set the record straight of what should have happened and what didn't happen. And because no other white dudes stepped up, they're in the cell hanging out with this guy like they're going to roll with him. It'd be one thing if he was 100% right and the Serenos had beat him out of some money or something, but they should have been in there with their knives. And it was a bad scene, man. These dudes were amateurs, all of them, based on their behavior, not what I'm saying, are dope-head speed freaks who can't handle their alcohol, who are acting like they're gangsters, and maybe they were tough when they were in whatever state prison they were in, and, and their size and their loud talking would get them through the day. But that ain't going to cut it when you're around a bunch of strapped assassins who's got no problem taking your win if that's what the situation calls for. Well, let's go ahead and get back into it and see what Carol Chronicles got to say about it, and we'll narrate it accordingly.
At 6:02 p.m., almost exactly 5 days after the stabbing. In the aftermath of Scapazzi's death, the FBI and the Bureau of Prisons began to unpack why 6 Serenos had planned and carried out a brazen prison homicide indoors in front of security cameras.
They don't care. There's no getting away with it. It's not like these old prisons where there was a bunch of blind spots. They know they're going to get busted. They don't care about getting busted. That means nothing to them. If something needs to be done, I said it again, and I said it before and I'll say it again, they'll hit the director of the Bureau of Prisons if they get the order to do it right on camera with no regard of the consequences of their action. These are serious gangsters. They're not wannabes. They're not playing the part doing a little rap dance with their knives to post on TikTok. Okay? These are serious, strapped assassins that will take your win right on camera with no regard for the potential consequences. None. Okay? Now, you're going to hear what they allegedly accepted a kite. I don't even know if the kite's real or not. For all I know, some SIS guy could have wrote it and said these guys wrote it. But you'll hear in their own words the way they roll. These are serious gangsters and they're not to be played with or taken lightly. And this is the result of white men playing the part but not really understanding the art of war. Okay? Let's get back into it.
A prison kite that authorities later intercepted from Yogi to Lonely made the gang motive behind the murder crystal clear. It said, "We know what the fuck happened in the cell. The Vato disrespected the sir, so fuck 'em, SA. To me, they got what they had coming, because I'm 100% Ryder, homeboy. And a motherfucker that disrespects the sir like that, they got something coming. Fuck the FBI, the 187, and all the scary motherfuckers." In September 2005, just 5 months after the attack, Yogi, Lonely, Slow, Monster, Little Man, and Mono were indicted on charges of murder, conspiracy, and assault. The trial happened in 2008, and the jury seemed to keep an open mind throughout. Only Yogi, Lonely, and Slow, the 3 stabbers, were convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Little Man was convicted of assault and got 5 years, while Monster was convicted only of throwing kicks during the fracas and received just 6 months. Mono was tried separately, convicted of assault, and received 87 months in prison. As they argued for leniency, Yogi's attorneys insisted that Yogi only stabbed Scapazzi in self-defense when Scapazzi pulled a knife first. As the case was moving toward trial, defense attorneys came across a potential bombshell when they began exploring a key question. Why did it take 5 days for Scapazzi to die when he appeared to be on track for recovery at first? The defense came up with an expert witness, Chief of Emergency Medicine at UCLA Medical Center, Dr. Marshall T. Morgan, who opined that Scapazzi, quote, would not have died of his injuries had he received minimally competent medical care. Morgan said that doctors at the Victor Valley Hospital failed to monitor Scapazzi's hemoglobin levels or do a CT scan of his abdomen, both of which are standard procedure. In the end, this revelation made no legal difference because the stabbing was still the proximate cause of Scapazzi's death. But it was yet another embarrassment to go along with the corruption among prison staff and the fact that a fatal stabbing occurred within the first 6 months of the prison's existence. That's it for now. Thank you for listening.
So you think you're a gangster, huh? Well, before you go out and start slinging that dope, and packing pistols and, doing other things, you better make sure that you really are who you proclaim to be or who you think you be. Because let me tell you something, homeboy. If the FBI or the federal government decides to take your case up and prosecute you at the federal level, you may think you've been in some hardcore jails, and I'm speaking as a white man who's been on Rikers Island, Attica, and Sing Sing. These are serious heavy-hitter jails. With that said, when they sent me into the Federal Bureau of Prisons, it's a complete different level of gangsterism. These dudes ain't going to do a lot of talking. They ain't going to do no little dance with their knives. All right? They're going to run up on your ass and give you the business. And the politicking and debating is on a completely different level. All right? Because let's say you get busted in Georgia. Okay. Georgia is a state. It's only so big. All right? So you got Atlanta, and you got Augusta, and you got Savannah, and you got other cities there. But you still understand the slang and the terminology. And even though every city may not get along, you still basically understand, okay, old boy's from Savannah, you're from Atlanta, and it's got distance in between it, and there may be a slightly different flow amongst those two cities, but you still understand the culture because you're from Georgia. Well, if the feds pick your case up and you piss them off, what they'll do is, oh, you're a tough guy? You a real gangster? Okay, we got something for you. Put your ass on a plane, not a bus, a plane. Take you from there to Oklahoma City and take you from there to either Atwater, California, which is a USP, or Victorville, California, which is a USP, or Bloody Beaumont, or Pollock. And when you get there, you're going to be dealing with dudes from 49 other states and several other U.S. territories who don't give a damn about Georgia or Atlanta or Charlotte or New York or Chicago or Miami. You a gangster? The feds will try your ass. And if you ain't really who you proclaim to be, you probably won't make it out because your intellect, not only is maybe you're physically tough, but your intellect isn't ready for what's going to come at you. like I did 10 years, all in United States penitentiaries. I don't have one stab wound on me. So you could take what I say as, this cracker don't know what he's talking about. Or you could take it as I know exactly what I'm talking about. And my goal isn't to talk down to people from any given state. My goal is to let you know you got gangsters and you got strapped assassins that are extremely intelligent, that are very well organized, very well led, and got no problem taking your breath and sending you to go hang out with Jesus or the devil, whatever the case may be. More likely the devil. All right. But just know, young man, what you're potentially getting yourself into and the consequences of your folly. Hey, I sure would appreciate if you hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get this channel up and Cadillac and lacking. Hey, me and my homeboys back here, Scully here, we can't do it without your help, man. Let's get this channel up and pumping, man. And my goal is to not only deliver true, accurate stories, but also make them entertaining and do a variety of different prison-related content. Not only just the violence in the stories, which I have thousands of those, I could tell, the violent, chaotic stories, and I will tell a whole lot of them. It's also to try to give education. If you're in this lifestyle, you want to know what you're dealing with, because at any given time, that gun you got, you won't be getting no 2 or 3 years in your state joint. If the feds pick it up, depending on your priors, they give you 15, 20 years for that same gun. Mandatory minimum 15 years if you qualify. Put you on a plane in Florida and ship your ass to California, where you're really around a whole bunch of strapped assassin, stone cold gangsters. All right? So know what you're dealing with, be informed, and be prepared. And until next time, stay up. Peace.